Craig, let's start off with a rally in the Shanghai Composite Index, up 4%, really kind of dismissing all of this Trump talk. What do you make of it?
Well, I first say what a difference a year makes. I remember last year about this time, the market was down about 10%. Did an Acapulco cliff dive for the month of January. Everybody was in the fetal position thinking about what they're supposed to be doing here. This year, you had largely, like you said, people have shrugged off some of the concerns. Obviously, the trade war is on everybody's mind, but I think it's not so much a blind dismissal as it is really a bet on pragmatism. At the end of the day, I think cooler heads should prevail. You never know with Trump. But at the end of the day, we're staring at a $320 billion trade deficit, which is about 1.8% of GDP, so it's not a huge number. That said, a trade tariff imposition would be disastrous for the economy, to be honest with you. I mean, 75% of every toy, computer, shoe that you buy here in the U.S. is produced in China. So the U.S. consumer would feel that. You would feel it. It'd be tough on the pocketbook. And you have a situation where the Fed is now in more of a rate hike mode. So that's, again, a bit of an ominous sign. I don't think the market is expecting that, however. I think cooler heads should prevail. I think Trump will be wise to, be a little bit careful here.
So China is banking on the fact that the economic reality will set in, and much like other presidents that talk tough on China during the campaign, when push comes to shove, he's not really going to push.
But it's more than that. There are some fundamental underpinnings to the Chinese market right now that make it pretty interesting, even at 3,200 in the Shanghai A composite. First of all, the spread, the spread between A-share market and the H-share market is at a two-year low, 1.8%. If you look back a year ago, it was at 14%. It's down. So that makes A shares more attractive relative to H.
Right.
You've had a really pretty resilient Chinese consumer. If you look at auto sales in China, very robust. You also had a backup in rates, particularly on the long end, so steepening the yield curve, which makes net interest margins for banks really interesting in China. So it's not just the threat of trade wars. I think some people really believe in China.
Other factors involved there. And let's talk about the Chinese consumer, the Chinese middle class, because that has been a tremendous boost to Hollywood, doing very well in revenue there. And China and the U.S., they have a deal up for negotiation now under the agreement reached by Vice President Joe Biden and Xi Jinping. The quota was increased to 34 from 20. What's the expectations for this trade deal?
Well, isn't it ironic that the very first bilateral trade agreement between Trump and China happens to be Hollywood?
With Hollywood being such vocal Trump bashes.
Interesting, and I think that Trump would like nothing more than to give Hollywood the middle finger. That said, I think, again, we're going to err to the side of pragmatism here. It would be wise for the U.S. and China to play nice on this, particularly in the filmmaking industry, which has gone from a $2 billion wallet in 2012, when we last had this agreement, to over $7 billion domestically in China, in the mainland. You have 40,000 screens across China now, which is just below where the U.S. sits in terms of screens. They have a studio outside, about 5.5 hours outside of Shanghai, that makes Hollywood look like a New York studio apartment. So they are really building out their filmmaking capabilities, and I believe what it means is you're going to see like Kung Fu Panda 10.
Right.
They're coming.
Why is it so important for the U.S., though, to have so many films in China, U.S. films screened there?
Say again, I'm sorry.
Why is it so important for the U.S., for Hollywood, to have so many films screened in China?
Well, again, I think it's a strong indication that Hollywood sees where their bread is truly buttered. If you look at the spend, and it's not just the movies itself, it's all the ancillary merchandising effects, the video games. China is a huge consumer of this. You have 1.5 billion people, a burgeoning middle class. They want to see movies, and nobody loves a movie star more than China right now. If you look at the billboards when you walk through Beijing and Shanghai, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, everywhere.
Absolutely. Thanks, Craig James, for being here. Before we go, we'll stick with Hollywood. Now, Hollywood hasn't been shy about bashing Trump, as you know, and now we can expect more of that at the Academy Awards this weekend, no doubt. And that brings us to our notable number for Monday, and that number is 5. What is 5, you ask? Well, that is the total number of words used by Joe Pesci in his Oscar acceptance speech. He kept it very short and sweet, saying, and I quote, "It's my privilege. Thank you." Pesci won Best Supporting Actor for Goodfellas back in 1991. So certainly didn't have the diatribe that we can expect from the likes of Meryl Streep, perhaps, if she does win again. Any picks for the Oscars this weekend?
You know, movies, as much as I love to watch them, I'm completely brain dead when it comes to who's even nominated. I can't even shudder a guess, to be honest with you.
All right.
Give me a category, and I'll give you
My money's in La La Land, taking some big prizes home. All
Ryan
right.
Gosling. He's pretty good.
All right. Thanks so much, Craig James.